individual examples, including embryology. That way, both of our audiences will know, where we stand on the issues.
Yeah.
How does that sound?
That sounds fine.
All right. So what I wanted to say, first and foremost, is that and I think maybe you'll agree with me here, we don't say that science is incorrigible or that it produces eternal sets of truth. And we know that the scientific method is based on falsification, as Karl Popper and others have stipulated. And as such, there can be change in science, even that which is referred to as scientific fact. We know that Thomas Kuhn wrote a book called The Structures of Scientific Revolution,
Yep.
which talks about what he refers to as paradigm shift.
Yeah, I've got it.
You've got that book?
I've got that book.
So me and you, I think, both agree that we shouldn't be using science as a yardstick for truth in an absolute sense, because maybe me and you will agree that science is itself not a perfect or eternal, incorrigible enterprise. Would you agree with that?
Can I reply?
Yes, of course.
So, I agree with the general thesis laid out by Muhammad. I agree with it. However, there are relative truths within greater paradigms that we can establish as certain. Things that we have no reason to indicate, because until there is a greater degree of observational tool, as well as the fact that technology itself will reach a limit in terms of what observations it can make, will mean that there is a conclusivity to certain observations. Certain observations are they're not all like speculative physics, like the multiverse and discussions about the Big Bang and questions about what gravity is.
Yeah.
Some things are actually indisputable descriptions of the material world, such as the chemical compound of water, H2O.
All right, so in a sense, I kind of do agree with you, but I'd like to kind of couch my language in more specific and sophisticated terminology.
Go on.
I think you're right to say that there's different epistemic weights to different observations that one can have scientifically.
Yeah.
But I would use it on a scale of probability. So
Which is exactly what science does.
Yeah, exactly. So for instance, like if I say that men have XY chromosomes and women have XX chromosomes, that to me seems a more certain fact than string theory, for instance, because string theory is new. It hasn't had the same kind of peer-reviewed exposure as has the biological understanding of XY versus XX.
Yeah, I think me and you have got enough grasp of the scientific method to now move the conversation forward.
So so that's good. So what we're saying is effectively, we agree on the fact that science is not an eternal truth, but that certain things are probabilistically more possible than others.
Yes, and that some observations we have no grounds to dispute. Would you agree with that? There's certain observations within science.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Right, and
so for instance, like the XY and XX.
Well, I mean, it's a bit more complicated than that, because there's XXY and there's
Right.
XYY.
No, but yeah. These are additions rather than replacements for Mark. Yeah,
exactly.
Okay.
So they work within a certain paradigm.
Right.
So now, let me lay out my case.
Yeah.
Because I'm the prosecutor in this discussion.
Now we are both prosecutors and we're both defendants.
Right. Well, so let me lay out
we talked about a fact that
yeah.
we're going to bring both of the books.
Yes, that's absolutely fine.
Yeah.
That's absolutely fine. So in terms of the standard, so I'm going to lay out my case. In terms of the standard that the Quran lays out for itself, it says in Surah 482, you probably know it off the top of your head. Yes. What does it say?
لو كان من عند غير الله لوجدوا فيه اختلافا كثيرا. If it was from other than God, they would have found in it many inconsistencies.
Yeah, exactly. Many. Yeah, and I'll just read it in the translation that we've got here as well.
Yes.
So just to make sure that there's no dispute. 482. Do they not consider the Quran carefully?
Yes.
Had it been from other than Allah, they would surely have found therein many a contradiction. Now, many a contradiction can be internal contradictions, or it can be external contradictions. Agreed?
Yes.
So, Muslims have marshalled, and I accuse the Dawah, those who are doing Dawah, I accuse them of lying deliberately, because they claim and I'm going to demonstrate that it's false. The Quran,
When you say they, let's be clear here.
the da'i, the ones
No,
doing
but
dawah.
let's be very specific because
People like Zakir Naik,
Okay,
people
fine.
like Adnan Rashid, people like.
So you're talking about.
I've given you some examples. Shabir
No, but are
Ali.
you talking about Zakir Naik or are you talking because you have to understand something. I think it's very important to realize that we don't all have the same view when it comes to this.
I agree.
So it's not. I don't think it's very clever to generalize the
Well,
da'is in that
I
sense.
tried to be specific. I did say the da'i, those doing dawah.
Some.
And I gave examples
Oh,
of the
right,
kind
yeah,
of people that I'm talking
That's
about.
why I just had to interrupt to make sure that that kind of specificity was ensured.
Okay, so
ahead.
we've clarified that. So now, in terms of the argument,
You like that? Huh?
yeah, in terms of the argument, yeah, no, it's totally fine.
He said it's totally fine.
In terms of the argument,
It's fine.
in terms of the argument,
Yes, sir.
Muslims make the argument that the Quran accurately describes embryology. That's what they say.
Yeah.
Now, I've qualified that, so when I say Muslims, I'm speaking about certain kinds of Muslims, like Adnan Rashid, like Zakir Naik,
Right.
like Shabir Ali. Not
Right.
every Muslim, I fully appreciate that.
Yeah.
So, it is fair, therefore, for me to test that argument.
Of course.
Right, so when I look at the description in the Quran,
Yeah.
and I'm going to read it to you, I'm going to ask you to just qualify for me what you think the stages are that are being described. So if we go to Surah 23:12,
Yeah, I got it. Yeah.
yeah. So 12 to 14, if you want to recite that while I'm getting out the English.
No, it's fine. You can just go ahead.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, but just before I do recite it, if you want me to, there are two It's not just 23 which talks about
I know.
stages. There's 22 as well.
Yeah, I've got
Surah
that.
Al-Hajj.
I've got that.
Yeah. So what? Do you want me to go through all the stages?
No. I'm going to read it, and when you hear a stage, I want you to stop me, interrupt me, and say this is a stage. Is that fair? So that everyone can hear the case being made out. Right? So, and indeed we created man out of an extract of clay. Thereafter we made him as a nutfa, thank you, in a safe lodging. Then we made the nutfa into a cloth. Then
Into
we
a-
made into a clot.
Clot,
Then we
yeah.
made the clot into a little lump of flesh.
Yeah.
Then we made out of that little lump of flesh bones. Then we clothed the bones with flesh,
Yeah.
and then we brought it forth as another creation.
Yeah.
So how many stages did you hear there?
In this part, وَلَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ مِنْ سُلَالَةٍ مِنْ طِينٍ. So number one, tin.
What, sorry?
So the clay or mud.
So clay, yep.
All right, and then you have ثم جعلناه نطفة في قرار مكين. We made him into a nutfa in a safe lodging. So nutfa.
Nutfa.
ثم
It's the same
جعلنا-
lodging. It's the safe lodging.
ثم خلقنا النطفة علقة فخلقنا العلقة مضغة فخلقنا مضغة عظاما فكسونا العظام لحما ثم أنشأناه خلقا آخر فتبارك الله أحسن الخالقين.
So you hear 3 stages.
No. No. You got. So let's go with nutfa.
Yeah.
We're talking about embryology in particular, right? So if you have nutfa,
Yeah.
then you have mudgha.
Which is?
Mudgha is a lump.
Yep.
And by the way, on this.
No. We're just going through the stages. Man.
But I have to. No, I'm doing it. But you have to let me say what it is. Yeah. In chapter 22, it says about mudgha.
Yep.
مخلقة وغير مخلقة. So it's partly formed and partly unformed.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then so after mudgha you have alaqa, which is a clot, and then after alaqa you have idam, which is bones. Yeah. And then you have after that flesh.
Okay.
So
Right.
5.
Now, again, just like the Muslim brother before him, without any prompting from me, no prompting from me at all, Muhammad said you have bones, then flesh.
Yeah.
So that's 2 Muslims independently, and Hijab's an experienced debater who said bones and then flesh.
That's right.
Now, guys, it is a simple fact of embryology, and you can all go and Google it right now. Bones do not. Now, notice the interruptions.
Guys, let him make his claim, please. Let him make his
There we
claim.
go. Bye, Mansour. Bye, Mansour. Bye, Mansour. Mansour, do you not think that hijab's big enough to stick up for himself?
Yeah, we know
I don't think hijab needs your help.
Keep going.
But if you want to come into debate, stand there.
No, I can't.
Just stand here.
Can you continue? Why are you waffling? I'm going to correct him every now and then. Carry on.
Right. So, guys, I challenge you now to go away and research it yourself. No embryologist argues that bones become flesh. Not anyone that is respectable. Except Mansour. So, sadly, this is why I have to raise my voice. I didn't want to, but I'm going to have to. I'm going to have to raise my voice because of Mansour. It's a shame because me and Hijab were having a nice conversation. Until Mansour turned up. So I'm not. All you're doing is delaying the argument. I'm still going to say my point, Mansour. I'm waiting for him to show. I'm waiting for him
Bob,
to show.
you've made your point.
I haven't finished my point. I haven't made my point.
All right, guys, be quiet, please. Let him finish his point because we have nothing to hide here. We have nothing to hide here. Let him finish his point. He said there's no references. We're gonna just explore that.
So the fact of the matter is, without any prompting from me, Hijab has said bones then flesh.
Yes.
And it is a fact, ladies and gentlemen, a fact that you can check for yourselves that bones and flesh grow together. JC, focus.
No, they don't.
Okay?
I know.
They grow together. They grow at the same time.
Guys, calm
They
down.
grow at the same time
Guys, calm down.
from the
Guys, calm
mesoderm.
down. Yes,
So
complete.
when the Quran says that bones grow with flesh, it's wrong for two reasons.
Yes, go ahead.
Firstly,
Yeah.
there is no ossification at this point. It's cartilage. It's not bone.
That's false.
Ossification comes later.
That's actually false.
Comes later, and
Yeah,
it
yeah.
isn't that the bones grow independently from the flesh.
By the way,
they grow together.
Okay,
Why are you interrupting? They grow together, and this is why the Quran is wrong because it stages it, and he admitted it.
Fine.
Bones then flesh. Your response?
Okay. He said there's no ossification. Ossification is when bone forms, and this is also referred to as osteogenesis, okay? He also said bones then flesh. Now let's be very clear. The word bones in Arabic is aidam. Now the word in the ayah was aidam. The word aidam in the Arabic language includes cartilage, by the way. How do we know that? If you look at the Arabic lexicons, and I can give you the names of them if you like.
I'd like you to pull it up.
Yeah,
Show
it's
us.
Lisan al-Arab from Ibn Manzur.
Yeah, no, can you pull it up? Can we see it?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah, let's pull it up.
So for example, I'll read it exactly as it says in the lexicon, right?
Yeah.
So basically this is what Ibn Manzur says in his lexicon.
Just quoting the Arabic, let's see if you understand.
So Al-Fayruz Abadi mentions. Al-Fayruz Abadi is another Arabic lexicon, okay? Al-Khudruf, and this is, he died 817 Hijri.
Yeah.
Al-Khudruf wal-Khudruf kullu azmin. Guys, please, I'm quoting it. I'm quoting it by the word. So there's no one here gonna say, get me a reference. I'm quoting it. He says, Al-Khudrufu kullu azmin rakhsin yu'kalu wa huwa marin al-unfi wa نغض الكتف ورؤوس الأصنع. Yeah, and this is in, I'll tell you exactly where it is. It is in Fayruz Abadi's Qamus al-Muhit, volume 1, page 840. Any issues?
So yes, I have an issue.
Okay, please, let me finish.
Yeah, I'll let you finish, but I have an issue.
Now that we have established, have we not, with references, have we not, that al-ghudruf, which is cartilage, is bone and cartilage can be used synonymously. He said that ossification doesn't happen. That's absolutely absurd.
No, I didn't say that.
No, he did say at this point, he did say that.
He didn't say that.
He said, no, he's making scientific mistakes. He said there's no reference as well.
Okay.
All right, so, excuse me. He said, guy, calm down, because he's saying that there's no reference. I've got a book called The Fundamentals of Human Embryology. Be quiet, please. The Fundamentals of Human Embryology.
Printed where, please?
Okay, I'll tell you. Page 148, this is a book that is used by biologists in their first or second year. And this is also a book that is used by medical students and others. It's a book called The Fundamentals of Human Embryology.
Okay. We'll look at it.
It might be Oxford University Press. I'm not going to give you like a full bibliography. Now you're being a bit ridiculous.
Fair enough.
Now, page 148.
I'll give you that one.
All right, look, page 148. Listen to what it said. Soon after the cartilaginous models of the bones have been established, the myogenic cells, which have now become myoblasts, aggregate to form muscle masses on the ventral and dorsal aspects of the limbs. These muscle masses in the relevant compartments form the flexors and extensors of the joints. Rotator muscles are also formed so that flexors and pronators are related and extenders are and supinators are related. Now this is very, very clear to me, and it's actually a reference. Let me just finish.
Okay.
No, please. When somebody is a layman when it comes to science, and is a layman when it comes to philosophy, and is a layman when it comes to Islamic theology, and is a layman when it comes to the Arabic language, has the audacity to come and stand for, excuse me, calm down. Has the audacity to come in front of, no, let me finish. Has the audacity to come in front of me, making two false claims, the first of which is that the Quran has said,
Hijab. Come on.
Let me finish. He said it on the camera. He said it on the camera, and this is at the age of technology. He said ossification doesn't happen at this stage. That's false. That is false. Osteogenesis.
He did not say that.
Well, we can rewind it.
Okay.
We can rewind it. Excuse me. Ossification does take place by the admission of the authorities, and that's what people are using in the universities all across this country. Number two.
No.
Number two. Excuse me. Let me finish. I gave you a reference.
Let him finish.
Number two.
Why when you saying that to Mansour?
Number two.
You're going on too long, Hijab.
Let him talk though. It's not a fair argument.
Now,
this is why we need to do it time. This is why we need to do it time.
Okay, no. Let me finish this point,
and then we'll do it.
Then you can do it time. But I'm just making one more point, and then you can say what you like.
Sure.
Number two, فَكَسَوْنَا الْعِظَامَ لَحْمًا is the only interpretation in the Quran that the fa is chronological or ta'qib, meaning is it chronological? No. There are two interpretations in the Islamic understanding. One of them is that it is chronological, and the other one is that it's not chronological. And Ibn Rajab al-Hanbali, he takes the view that all of it happens in the first 40 days. And he mentions that in his sharh of the hadith of إِنَّ أَحَدَكُمْ لِيَكُونَ فِي بَطْنِ أُمِّهِ 40 يَوْمًا مُضْغَةً عَلَقَةً نطفة ثم يكون علقة بعد ذلك ثم يكون مضغة بعد ذلك. And then he says, and then because excuse me, hold on. Hold on. This hadith says, and wait, let me finish. Let me finish. You need to hear all the data. Otherwise you won't know what. Listen, let me finish.
You're not finishing.
Let me finish.
You're not finishing though.
Give me what?
You're not finishing.
Let me finish.
Carry on.
There's another way of the hadith.
Oh, here we go.
Listen, please. Calm down, please. He said, there's another hadith, very important. ثُمَّ فِي ذَلِكَ مِثْلَ ذَلِكَ. This is very important. So he said that in the hadith of Muslim, and the hadith of Sahih Muslim, it's فِي ذَلِكَ مِثْلَ ذَلِكَ, which means in that time, listen, it means in that time, it will be like that. So because it said فِي ذَلِكَ مِثْلَ ذَلِكَ, the opinion of the Hanabila in the matter, the Hanbalis, is that it all happens in 40 days. Why is it there for that there's a difference of opinion among the fuqaha?
Wait, you're just making another point.
Please, man, stop. Stop. Let me say it. You can talk. Let me talk. Let me finish.
You're not finishing.
Let me finish.
You're not finishing.
Let me finish.
That's not finishing.
Let me finish.
You're not finishing. But you're not finishing.
I'm gonna finish.
No, you're not though. You're
Is
just
that
gonna make
okay?
another point.
Let me finish. Look, that's why the fuqaha have differed, the jurists have differed as to when a woman can have an abortion. Some say 120 days, some say 40 days. The ones who say it all happens within 40 days, based it on the hadith and the interpretation of the hadith of Ibn Rajab al-Hanbali and other Hanabila. Therefore, now
you're making another point.
In summary,
Hijab, let me reply.
in summary,
just making another point.
In summary, number one, the interpretation of chronology is not consensus. Number two, even if we say it is, it includes the cartilaginous models, and that is what, according to this book, which is an authority that all of the doctors are using, is actually happening. Ossification and mesogenesis are happening at the same time, and that means to say that the cartilaginous models are moving in the way that the Quran says. You have nowhere to go.
Okay, so now let me reply. Now let me reply. So, okay, we're just going to change the battery.
Let him go, please. Now I'm going to give him his time. No one interrupt him.
Tell that to Mansour.
You told him to come.
Please, everybody, make sure that you don't interrupt him, because whatever he says is going to be refuted, and then we're going to move on to the Bible, where he's going to have nowhere to run.